The classroom buzzes with gossip about Bakatani's shocking suicide attempt, met with cruel mockery and disbelief from his classmates. Just as the chatter grows louder, a stern teacher bursts in, demanding the students settle down immediately. Among the crowd, a mysterious woman catches the attention of one student, sparking curiosity. As the classroom quiets down, a new woman stands confidently beside the stern teacher, her calm smile contrasting with his serious expression. Her presence immediately shifts the atmosphere, hinting at a deeper connection to the unfolding drama. The vice principal solemnly announces that Wakatani-sensei, the homeroom teacher, has been suddenly hospitalized, correcting the students' earlier confusion about Bakatani. As the class erupts into laughter and questions, the new woman calmly steps forward, explaining that a replacement teacher has been appointed until Wakatani-sensei can return. The atmosphere shifts as the reality of the situation sinks in. The new teacher, Kokoro Kasai, introduces herself warmly to the class, sharing her age and heartfelt dream of becoming a teacher inspired by her own elementary school mentor. Though new, she promises to do her best to make the students happy as their homeroom teacher. Her sincere smile and earnest words immediately capture the attention and admiration of the students. The boys openly admire the new teacher's appearance with enthusiastic cheers, while Ayaha Kanazawa scoffs at the idea of making students happy, calling it stupid with a mocking smile. Nearby, Azumi Fuyukawa watches silently, worried and thinking that the newcomer has no idea what she's truly stepped into. The tension between admiration and skepticism fills the classroom atmosphere. Ryudo Akazuki sits quietly, lost in thought as he fixates on the new teacher, sensing a strange familiarity about her. His classmates tease him for staring too intensely, but he brushes it off, troubled by the nagging feeling that he's seen her before. Meanwhile, the cheerful teacher warmly announces the start of their first chemistry lesson, urging everyone to get along and reminding them this is her first time leading a class. Riku Sasaki boldly calls out to the new teacher, interrupting the lesson with a cheeky question about her first time. His classmates burst into laughter, clearly enjoying the disruption, while the teacher looks taken aback, caught off guard by his unexpected remark. The teacher bluntly clarifies Riku's ambiguous question, asking if by first time he means sex, and insists he should just say the word directly. Flustered but trying to keep up, Riku stammers a hesitant agreement as she explains that vague terms only cause confusion. The classroom falls into stunned silence, caught off guard by the unexpected frankness. The teacher casually reveals that her first time was at age 12, shocking Riku into a flustered, wide-eyed reaction. Meanwhile, one student scowls, irritated by what he sees as her bragging, while others speculate that she's just putting on a tough front to avoid being pushed around on her first day. The classroom buzzes with murmurs as the lesson is about to begin. A sly smile creeps across a scheming student's face, as she predicts the new girl will meet the same harsh fate as the last troublemaker, Bakatani. She eagerly anticipates the chaos, wondering how long it will take before the newcomer ends up in the hospital. Meanwhile, the classroom buzzes with restless energy as the teacher calls on Akazuki-kun, but his disinterested gaze suggests he's far from engaged. When the teacher calls on Akazuki-kun, he reluctantly agrees to answer, only to be met with a shocking demand. "You take off your panties." The classroom erupts in wild excitement, with some students shouting panties, and others eagerly cheering for Kokoro-chan's panties. The teacher, caught between disbelief and hesitation, quietly addresses Akazuki-kun again. The teacher tries to ease the tension, suggesting it's okay to admit if he doesn't know the answer, but the protagonist snaps back defiantly, with a serious glare. He demands the teacher take off her panties, then confidently smirks as he delivers an impossibly precise answer. 6 times 10 to the power of 23. The teacher responds with a pleased, almost amused smile. The teacher calmly corrects the protagonist's answer with exact precision, prompting him to angrily shout, "Nitpicking." As frustration bubbles over, she then cheekily announces that her panties will stay on, shifting the class's attention back to the lesson. Meanwhile, a girl watches in awe, admiring the teacher's unshakable confidence while nervously wondering if the shocking moment might repeat itself. In the staff room, the vice principal approaches Kasai-sensei, eager for her impression of the class. She responds with a bright smile, calling the students very lively kids. The vice principal reflects on the difficulties faced by her predecessor, revealing how veteran teachers refused to take on the challenging class, leaving the school uncertain of how to proceed. The vice principal acknowledges how unusual the situation is but points out that Kasai-sensei was the only one brave enough to take on the difficult class. Meanwhile, the students start plotting their next move, deciding to target Kokoro Kasai now that Bakatani is gone, expressing their boredom and eagerness for new excitement. The students openly gush about Kasai-sensei, praising her humor and figure, while teasing Ryudo for his bold comments. Ayaha, flustered, scolds him for speaking that way in front of her. But Ryudo confidently turns the moment into a sweet declaration, calling her the cutest to him. Their classmates watch in surprise, wondering if a genuine flirtation is unfolding before their eyes. With a sly smile, Ryudo readies his butterfly knife, determined to have some fun and not let Kasai-sensei's earlier jab go unanswered before things escalate. Just then, the classroom door creaks open, and Kasai-sensei arrives, greeting everyone as the students eagerly prepare for what's next. Just as the tension builds, a splash of water drenches Kasai-sensei, leaving her soaked and clutching her chest in shock. Ryudo sheepishly admits his hands slipped, while the classmates burst into laughter at the unexpected turn of events. Teasing Sasaki for her stiff reaction and terrible acting. Meanwhile, a nervous student watches, overwhelmed by the thought of how awful it is to treat a teacher like this on her first day. Clenching their fists and stomping their foot, they fear becoming the next target if they speak up, desperately wondering what to do. Kasai-sensei, soaked but unfazed, smiles softly and remarks on the unexpectedness of the situation. She playfully notes how warm the water is, her calm demeanor catching the students off guard. The classmates watch in stunned silence, their earlier laughter fading into uneasy surprise. Kasai-sensei, still dripping wet, turns to make an announcement about the survey forms due tomorrow, her soaked clothes clinging to her figure and drawing the students' attention. Sasaki nervously questions if she's really going to continue like this, while the teacher calmly reminds everyone to submit their forms on time. Suddenly, Sasaki awkwardly points out that her bra is completely visible through her wet shirt, leaving Kasai-sensei momentarily stunned. Just as the class begins to settle, a confident student steps forward, demanding Kasai-sensei take responsibility for the wet floor. Flanked by two classmates, she insists the teacher clean up the mess, reminding her firmly that she's the adult in charge. Meanwhile, a couple of boys awkwardly comment on the striking contrast of the black bra under the wet white shirt, adding to the tension in the room. The confident student demands the teacher take responsibility for the wet floor, insisting it's a problem for everyone. The teacher, unfazed, calmly replies that it's not a problem for her. Even if others are troubled, the student's frustration boils over, glaring fiercely as she tries to pinpoint who just laughed at her outburst. As Ayaha tries to calm herself, Azumi suddenly grabs her shoulder, her face twisted with anger and veins throbbing. She snarls that Ayaha has some nerve laughing at her, calling her trash, sending a chill down Ayaha's spine. The tension escalates as Azumi's fury becomes palpable, leaving Ayaha visibly shaken. Inside the women's restroom, a trio of girls confront Azumi, pressing her about their feelings toward Miss Kasai. They agree that Kasai is becoming too comfortable and annoying, cornering Azumi to confirm their shared frustration. Trembling and overwhelmed, Azumi hesitantly admits she finds Kasai annoying, while one of the girls sneers with satisfaction. A cold, terrifying suggestion is thrown at Azumi, to push Kasai down the stairs and break a few bones so she stops coming to school. Shocked and horrified, Azumi protests she can't do that, but the threat escalates with a sinister reminder of a past video and the consequences if she refuses. The pressure mounts, leaving Azumi trapped in fear and intimidation. The girls cruelly threaten to share a humiliating video, mocking how Azumi's family would react if they saw it. Terrified and desperate, she pleads for them not to, but their sinister grin tells her she knows exactly what she must do. Collapsing on the floor, Azumi is consumed by fear and helplessness, dreading the consequences if her father ever sees the video. Azumi's heart races in panic as Miss Kasai approaches confidently down the hallway, her presence overwhelming, despite her fear. A sudden shove urges Azumi forward, pushing her toward a terrifying decision. The sound of Kasai's footsteps echo ominously as she descends the stairs, sealing the moment's tense atmosphere. The girls snicker cruelly, their mocking faces filled with satisfaction. Overwhelmed by fear and shame, Azumi trembles, whispering apologies as she faces the terrible choice forced upon her. Despite her desperate plea in her heart, she is pushed forward, tears streaming down her face as the weight of the moment crushes her spirit. A new chapter begins, introducing the charming yet mischievous teacher Psycho as she confidently leads the class with a knowing smile and a pointer in hand. Her presence promises both guidance and unexpected twists ahead. Tension rises as two students corner the teacher, their sinister grins cutting through the air. The teacher, overwhelmed and sweating, quietly utters an apology. "Sensei, I'm sorry." Suddenly, hands grab her face, escalating the confrontation to a dangerous new level. As the teacher scrambles to gather her scattered papers, a sudden movement catches her eye, filling her with shock. Nearby, a group of students watch anxiously. Sensing the tension escalate, the protagonist reaches out desperately, her expression a mix of fear and urgency, while another student looks on in stunned confusion. Just in time, the protagonist catches the teacher from falling down the stairs. Sighing in relief, she gently warns her to be careful, reminding her how dangerous stairs can be. The teacher, overwhelmed with emotion, struggles to hold back tears as she asks if the protagonist is hurt. Overwhelmed by guilt and emotion, the student breaks down in tears, sobbing uncontrollably as she clings to the protagonist. Nearby, onlookers express concern, noting that she clearly isn't okay. Later, in the nurse's office, the student continues to apologize profusely, struggling to come to terms with what happened. The teacher gently brushes the protagonist's tears away, assuring her that a girl who cries could never be someone she dislikes. She then asks softly if the protagonist had tried to push her down the stairs, leaving the question hanging in the air. Overwhelmed, the protagonist stammers a denial but begins to confess she was ordered to do something by Kanazawa and others, her voice trembling with guilt and fear. The protagonist nervously reveals that Kanazawa and others threatened her with a damaging video they took, forcing her to obey their orders despite how difficult it was. The teacher listens intently, acknowledging the courage it took to comply under such pressure. Overwhelmed by fear, the protagonist admits she was genuinely scared. The protagonist tearfully reveals that after school, she was cornered and forced to endure disturbing acts against her will. She painfully recalls Kanazawa and Sasaki as the ones responsible. While Akazuki was nearby, recording everything on his phone, the weight of her trauma is clear as she struggles to name her tormentors. Trembling with fear, she reveals the tormentors have threatened not only her but her entire family, even finding out where her father works to use it against them. The teacher listens with understanding as the girl struggles to comprehend why this is happening to her. Desperately wanting to protect her hardworking father who raises her and her sister alone after their mother's passing, despite the pain, she clings to the small comfort of her father's daily care, even as she hides the truth from him to avoid causing more trouble. Overwhelmed by despair, the girl confesses she just wants to disappear. The teacher gently begins to share her own painful past, revealing that she too once faced a devastating crisis in elementary school. Though she can't reveal all the details, she recalls thinking her life was over, until her own teacher stepped in to protect her, bringing light to her darkest moment. The teacher reveals the heart behind her profession, explaining that she became a teacher to protect her students' happiness. The girl clutches her hands tightly, deeply moved but also worried. The teacher reassures her, promising to be there for her and emphasizing that her duty extends beyond just protecting her own family. The teacher reveals the harsh reality of the bullies, explaining that they never stop until their victims are completely broken because they can't understand others' pain. She acknowledges the escalating cruelty, comparing it to the previous teacher's tragic experience, and calmly asserts that the same pattern is happening now. Despite the girl's fear and desperate warnings, the teacher confidently insists she will handle the situation herself. The teacher's expression shifts to one of calm determination, a subtle yet unsettling smile playing on her lips as she tells Fuyukawa it's time to return home. The girl, caught off guard and sweating nervously, stammers in response, unable to hide her confusion and concern. From a distance, the school building stands silent, while the girl wonders why the teacher appears so elated in this tense moment. The scene shifts to Ayamike Hospital, where a quiet knock breaks the stillness outside room 505. Inside, a frail patient lies connected to a ventilator, greeting the visitor with a weak but warm smile, despite his fragile state. He speaks with surprising cheer, sharing that something wonderful has happened today and expressing a sudden, strong desire to see the visitor again. The visitor reveals she's decided to help Azumi Fuyukawa, a bullied girl in her class with a tearful face that moved her deeply. This decision fills her with a newfound excitement and purpose, breaking the dull emptiness she'd been feeling. Though she wishes she could stay longer to share more, she must leave to prepare for what's ahead. As she leaves the hospital, the visitor's parting words echo warmly, but the mood shifts to the young man waiting outside, who scowls at his phone, irritated by the persistent messages demanding his attention. The bus pulls up, signaling the next stop at Ayamike Hospital, while he mutters his frustration under his breath. The next day, the classroom is filled with cruel taunts as a mock funeral altar for Miss Kasai is set up, covered in hateful messages mocking her death. Meanwhile, a group of students smirk and whisper maliciously, while one girl looks on with a stunned, troubled expression. The teachers react to the chaotic classroom scene with a mix of disbelief and frustration, commenting on the petty cruelty and the mess left behind. One teacher grimly notes how much hatred has surfaced in just one day, while another expresses relief that it's not their class to handle. A stern teacher confronts the situation head-on, demanding if anyone feels embarrassed by the spectacle, clearly upset by the lack of order and respect. A girl flashes a bright smile, denying any involvement in the hateful messages, while a boy jokes about their classical literature teacher being stuck with cleaning up the mess. Nearby, some students lament their hard work being overshadowed, and the announcements wrap up with a reminder about construction around the school. Meanwhile, one girl's expression darkens with intense fury, crackling with barely contained rage. After school, behind the school building, a girl is grabbed roughly and scolded for not following through on a cruel order to push Kasai down the stairs. Despite the intimidation, she firmly refuses, swearing she will never hurt a good teacher again. Nearby, two other girls look on with stern disapproval, questioning her defiance. A fierce punch lands squarely on the girl's face, blood splattering as her glasses fly off. The aggressor grabs her by the hair, shouting harshly that if she can't follow orders, they'll just film another video like before. The victim, trembling and desperate, pleads for the abuse to stop, but the torment continues relentlessly. Just as the girl's terror peaks, two boys approach, one with a cruel grin, clearly enjoying her suffering, and the other silent but watchful. The tormentor taunts her eagerly, expressing how much he loves seeing her cry and hinting that today's abuse will finally happen. Nearby, a girl orders someone to keep watch, while the victim desperately pleads for mercy, her fear mounting. Tensions flare as accusations fly, questioning loyalties and past humiliations. The atmosphere darkens when a boy suddenly grabs the terrified girl, silencing her with a hand over her mouth while forcibly exposing her. Amidst the chaos, the boys argue over who will take the lead in the cruel act, their intentions chillingly clear as a phone is ready to capture everything. "I'm sorry, but I can't provide the narration you're asking for." As the victim writhes in pain on the ground, the tormentors exchange sinister words, one eagerly awaiting orders. Suddenly, a calm yet unsettling figure appears, her presence commanding attention as she utters the name Kasai, signaling a shift in control. Tension fills the air as Kasai collapses to his knees, clutching his injured leg in pain. The students around him react with shock and concern, one calling out his name desperately. Amidst the chaos, the teacher stands calmly, her presence both reassuring and mysterious. The teacher steps forward with a sweet smile, casually teasing the students about catching a cold if they expose themselves like that. She calmly announces her intention to join in, her cheerful demeanor contrasting sharply with the tension around Kasai. Meanwhile, a student angrily confronts her, accusing her of being violent after she punched him in the gut. The teacher feigns innocence, denying any wrongdoing with a playful smile, while the student vehemently insists she's lying. Another student questions the escalating drama, confused by the sudden tension. The teacher calmly criticizes the student's accusations as petty squabbles, showing no remorse. Meanwhile, a determined student reveals they've been recording everything and suggests reporting the incident to the authorities, intensifying the confrontation. The accused student trembles, admitting the teacher did hit him, caught between fear and disbelief. The teacher coldly warns that the video being recorded could backfire, implying serious consequences if it's seen. She confidently asserts that despite the witnesses, credibility in society favors teachers over students. The students are taken aback, questioning this outdated notion, but the teacher remains unfazed, dismissing their testimonies as meaningless. The teacher coldly challenges the trembling student, contrasting her with the serious Fuyukawa and questioning whose testimony will be believed, hers or the troublemakers. She demands Fuyukawa to confirm who truly committed the violent act, pressing the student to choose between them. The tension escalates as the student struggles under the weight of this harsh judgment. Shaking with tears, the student points accusingly at the group, calling them these people, while struggling with her own weakness and fear. Fuyukawa, glaring fiercely, warns her sharply, threatening serious consequences if she continues. Despite the threat, the student defiantly insists she's not a heartless monster like Fuyukawa, her voice trembling but resolute. With a sly smile, the protagonist downplays the situation, insisting it was all just a prank that got a bit out of hand. His companion eagerly backs him up, claiming they're reflecting on their actions and that calling it violence is an exaggeration. The teacher listens quietly, her expression unreadable as she processes their dismissive excuses. The teacher reluctantly accepts the protagonist's excuse and urges Fuyukawa to be more careful, gently guiding her away. Meanwhile, the antagonists watch with growing interest, eager to see if Fuyukawa can truly protect the student. Despite the tension, the student expresses gratitude and admiration for Fuyukawa's bravery, even as she worries about having angered Ayaha. Overwhelmed with fear and worry about facing Ayaha tomorrow, Fuyukawa tearfully confesses her anxiety about skipping school and disappointing her father. The teacher reassures her with a warm, beaming smile, reminding her of the promise to protect her as her guardian. Despite Fuyukawa's desperate calls, the teacher calmly urges her to head home quickly, leaving with a confident stride. As the teacher walks away with a confident smile, the student watches her go, overwhelmed with gratitude. Meanwhile, the protagonist frantically searches the empty classroom in her bag for something she's sure she packed during gym class, growing increasingly anxious. Suddenly, a guard aggressively confronts her, shoving her and demanding she leave as they prepare to close the gates. But she defiantly snaps back, refusing to go quietly. Frustrated and worried, the protagonist wonders if she dropped the missing item somewhere outside. She retraces her steps through the quiet neighborhood, calling out Kanazawa as she searches, her footsteps echoing in the still evening. Finally, she arrives at a house marked with the name Kanazawa, hoping this might be the place connected to what she's lost. Frustrated and feeling isolated, she vents about her parents ignoring her messages and how everyone treats her like a fool. Despite her anger, she clings to one person who still matters to her, Ryuto, wishing everyone else would just disappear. A photo of the two together reminds her of the rare connection she holds onto amid the chaos. Frustration turns to a dark resolve as she decides to expose Azumi by spreading embarrassing videos online. With a sinister grin, she plans to create an anonymous account, relishing the thought of shaking up the school and even targeting their incompetent homeroom teacher. Just as she prepares to act, the doorbell rings, interrupting her scheme. The sudden ring of the doorbell breaks her concentration, sparking a flicker of curiosity. Peering through the intercom, she hears the delivery announcement and reluctantly heads to the door. Opening it, she faces the delivery person with a mix of annoyance and resignation. Her shock is palpable as she recognizes the delivery person. Kasai, he greets her with an unsettling smile, breaking the tense silence. Confused and uneasy, she questions why he's here, as he confidently steps inside, closing the door behind him. Without warning, Kasai delivers a brutal punch, sending her crashing to the floor in shock and pain. As she trembles and gasps, he coldly taunts her, reminding her that her parents are rarely home and questioning how it feels to be hit by someone. Panic sets in as she scrambles to cover her mouth, desperately trying to process the terrifying situation. Kasai grabs her forcefully, his grip unrelenting as he coldly declares his intention to have a private conversation. With a sinister grin, he insists it will be just the two of them, taking his time to make sure she understands the gravity of the situation. The fear and pain on her face reveal the brutal reality of his threat. Our hero stands outside, puzzled by the sudden urgency as he notices the gate left open. He questions the timing, noting that it's not even cold, while opening the gate with a cautious yet curious expression. Our hero steps inside, puzzled by the empty house despite being called over. He spots his down jacket left behind and senses something is wrong, calling out for Ayaha. He warns that if she's not home, he'll leave, but the door suddenly gets stuck, heightening the tension. The door suddenly slams shut, revealing a mysterious figure in dark clothing and a hat, holding a bloodied knife with a sinister smile. Our hero's expression shifts to shock and confusion as he quietly mutters, "What the heck?" The tension skyrockets as the intruder stands ominously in the shadows. The next day, our hero anxiously checks his phone, worried that Ayaha hasn't read his messages and wonders if she's upset with him. At school, classmates chatter nervously, hinting at something ominous awaiting Ayaha's arrival. As the classroom settles, the teacher calls for everyone to take their seats, signaling that something significant is about to unfold. The classroom buzzes with uneasy whispers as Kokoro-chan's usual cheer is nowhere to be found. With a serious tone, she announces she has important news about Ayaha Kanazawa, leaving everyone tense and on edge. The revelation hangs heavy in the air, catching the attention of all the students, especially our hero, whose expression hardens with concern. With a heavy heart, Kokoro-chan delivers the devastating news. Ayaha passed away yesterday. The classroom falls into a stunned silence, the weight of her words sinking in deeply. The classroom falls silent as a chilling announcement is made. Ayaha Kanazawa has passed away yesterday. Shock ripples through the students, their faces a mix of disbelief and horror at the sudden news. The gravity of the moment hangs heavy in the air, leaving everyone stunned. The classroom erupts in panic and disbelief as the shocking details emerge. A sharp weapon was used in the attack, and the perpetrator remains at large. One student desperately clings to her phone, hoping the news is a cruel mistake, while another angrily refuses to accept the grim reality. The tension and fear escalate as everyone grapples with the terrifying truth. The tension spikes as the teacher warns that the culprit might still be among them, urging everyone to stay alert. One student bursts out in disbelief, recalling a recent visit to the victim, which shocks the entire class. The room falls silent again as all eyes turn to him, waiting for what he might reveal. Frustrated and tense, the young man grabs his bag, determined to move forward despite the chaos. The bell signals the start of the first period, forcing everyone to try and refocus. Meanwhile, the girl with glasses sits frozen in shock, struggling to process the horrifying news about Kanazawa-san. Her mind racing with disbelief and fear. Doubt and confusion flood the girl's mind as she questions if Miss Kasai could have known this would happen. She struggles to reconcile her memories of the teacher's genuine care for her students with the horrifying possibility. Meanwhile, a boy sits alone on a train, overwhelmed by disbelief and sorrow as the news of the murder blares from his phone. A sudden realization hits him. It's the down jacket from yesterday. His heart pounds as he rushes into the cluttered room of apartment 401, calling out to Ayaha. Gripping a bag tightly, he urges her to come and pick it up, desperation clear in his voice. His hand trembles as he holds up the blood-stained down jacket, the grim evidence confirming his darkest fears. His wide, terrified eyes reflect the shock and horror sinking in as the reality of the situation crashes down on him. In the quiet classroom of 2B, the lesson continues with the teacher explaining molar calculations, but the atmosphere is tense and heavy. One student struggles to focus, clearly shaken, while another fights back tears, overwhelmed by the unfolding tragedy. Amidst the silence, the protagonist reflects on Miss Kasai's possible shock, hoping she's holding up despite the horrifying events affecting her students. Kasai, battered and in pain, struggles to stay conscious as she weakly pleads about her aching head. A sinister figure holds up her unlocked phone, taunting her with messages complaining about her parents, while she desperately demands to be untied and questions why she's being bullied. The tension spikes as her eyes widen in shock, realizing the intruder's control over her. The intruder coldly taunts the captive, comparing her to another girl whose devoted father contrasts sharply with her own absent parents. The captive, bruised and defiant, snaps back, denying any jealousy and rejecting the intruder's cruel assumptions. Meanwhile, the intruder dismisses sympathy entirely, asserting a harsh truth as they grip a flashlight, emphasizing their cold detachment from the suffering around them. The intruder coldly delivers a brutal blow, asserting that Kasai's parents don't love her and have no interest in her. Whether she's alive or dead, overwhelmed and desperate, she vehemently denies the cruel accusation, tears streaming down her face as she clings to the hope that it's not true, bound and vulnerable. Her pain is matched only by the merciless cruelty of her captor's words. The captor coldly dismisses Kasai's tears, claiming her torment is an awakening, and that bullying Fuyukawa-san wasn't enough because her own wounds remain unhealed, smiling cruelly. He insists that bullying won't mend her broken heart, and that the only path for someone unloved by their parents is to be saved, implying a twisted salvation only he can offer. Kasai, battered and tearful, is left stunned and vulnerable before his chilling words. The captor coldly declares that she must die, his words cutting through the room like a blade. Kasai's eyes widen in shock and disbelief, tears mixing with sweat as she struggles to comprehend his cruel resolve. With a chilling smile, he insists that since love is unattainable for her, death is the only escape from the pain of living, and suggests they die together, as if it's a twisted solution. Kasai recoils in horror and disbelief at the suggestion, her panic and desperation clear as she yells out in refusal. The captor, calm and unshaken, tries to rationalize the idea, comparing the experience to something pleasurable like sex, insisting that once tried, it feels good, despite her terror. He coldly argues that fear only comes before experience, attempting to manipulate her into submission. The captor taunts her with a photo of her and Akazuki-kun, claiming she felt good with him and that's why she kept those embarrassing pictures. Overcome with tears, she desperately cries out that she's loved by Ryudo and that she's needed. Meanwhile, a message on a phone reveals someone is already on their way, prompted by the promise to return Akazuki-kun's down jacket properly. The captor reveals a knife, claiming it belongs to Akazuki-kun and boasting that he confiscated it during gym class. He taunts her with a photo of her and Akazuki-kun, insinuating their closeness, then cruelly asks how it would feel to be stabbed by someone she loves, demanding an answer as she trembles in fear. The captor cruelly presses the knife against her eye, eliciting a terrified scream as she writhes in pain. He mocks her reaction, then slashes her abdomen, silencing her with a gag while coldly commenting on the noise she made. The captor fixates on her exposed chest, crudely commenting on its beauty and confessing a twisted curiosity about what lies beneath. With a sinister determination, He prepares to continue his brutal mutilation, treating the horrifying act as a grim, learning experience. The protagonist's terror intensifies as she faces this unimaginable violation. The school day ends quietly, with the teacher cheerfully remarking how peaceful and easy it was to teach after Kanazawa's death, a comment that unsettles a nearby student. Meanwhile, at the police station, officers discuss the victim's parents returning from overseas the next day, hinting at the ongoing investigation's delicate situation. The captor stands over the mutilated body, blood and wounds stark against her pale skin, his voice coldly questioning how they could possibly reveal something so horrific to others. The sheer brutality of the scene leaves no room for mercy, only chilling calculation. The protagonist desperately insists on their innocence, recalling how their bloodied clothes and missing knife implicate them despite only visiting Ayaha's house. A cold voice warns that a sharp weapon was used in the attack, emphasizing the importance of credibility in society. Overwhelmed and sweating, the protagonist resolves to go to the police immediately, while a sinister figure mocks the situation, revealing the cruel manipulation at play. Haunted by memories of a happier time with his brother, the protagonist is lost in turmoil, questioning what to do next. Meanwhile, at Ayamike Hospital, a woman quietly enters, greeting a frail man named Takuto-kun with a smile, confessing she couldn't resist the overwhelming urge to see him again. The woman recalls their childhood, teasing him relentlessly by throwing cicadas, grasshoppers, and caterpillars. Even when he didn't react, she admits feeling embarrassed by the rumors that he liked her, yet confesses with a sly smile that he was truly annoying every single day. A woman quietly enters the hospital room, surprising the nurse as she introduces herself as Takuto's mother. She apologizes for not visiting sooner, explaining that work has kept her busy, reflecting on the woman's growth into a fine adult and her new role as a teacher. The nurse expresses admiration, while the mother admits that despite accepting her son's condition, she still finds herself thinking about it often. The tragic memory of Takuto slipping on the school stairs haunts them, wondering how different things might have been if the accident never occurred. Takuto was admired for his athleticism, popularity, and strong sense of justice, destined to become a remarkable leader. Despite the initial support from friends, only one person continues to visit him now, highlighting the loneliness that followed the incident. The nurse shares how she tells Takuto stories from school, especially about a certain girl in her class who once was a troublemaker but was deeply lonely. Through their efforts, the girl gradually calmed down, and today the nurse feels grateful to be a teacher, humbled by the chance to support students like her. Tension rises as a young man forcefully insists he can do as he pleases, surprising the women present. One woman sternly reminds him to watch his manners, especially since someone has come all this way to visit. The young woman calmly introduces him as Takuto's younger brother, assuring that they've met before despite the awkward first impression. Her warm smile and gentle words cut through the tension, offering a rare moment of comfort. But his wide eyes and sweat reveal the storm of emotions brewing inside him as he hears his name spoken with unexpected familiarity. The protagonist bursts into the hospital room, shocked and demanding to know why Ryudo is there. A nurse apologizes, explaining that Ryudo is going through a rebellious phase and often acts out. The woman sitting by the patient's bedside reassures her with a warm smile, saying Ryudo is usually very energetic in class. The visitor reveals he was in the same class as Ryudo back in elementary school and occasionally comes to see him. The protagonist struggles to process the revelation that Ryudo and the visitor have known each other for over 10 years, reacting with frustration and disbelief. The woman by the bedside notes the striking resemblance between Ryudo and Takuto, even in spirit, which only fuels the protagonist's anger. Overwhelmed by the situation, Ryudo suddenly storms out, leaving everyone stunned. Confused and overwhelmed, the protagonist wrestles with the shocking truth that the woman knew his brother. Suddenly, two men arrive, identifying themselves as investigators seeking answers about Ayaha Kanazawa. The tension spikes as one of the men asks if he is Ryudo Akazuki, leaving him visibly shaken and struggling to respond. The investigators press him for details about when and where he last saw Ayaha, reassuring him that they're simply questioning everyone in his class. As they leave, the protagonist's anxiety intensifies, torn between honesty and fear that revealing too much might make him a suspect. His mind races with doubt, haunted by the possibility that telling the truth could put him in danger. The school buzzes with anxious chatter about the brutal murder, rumors swirling as students share their own encounters with the investigators. Suddenly, Ryudo storms back into the classroom, his intense glare silencing the room. His classmates watch nervously as he lowers his head, clearly weighed down by the mounting pressure. The protagonist struggles with sleeplessness and isolation, feeling trapped by his own anxiety, haunted by the blood-stained clothing and the cruel manipulation that led him to Ayaha's house. He clenches his fist, desperate to understand who could have done this. Meanwhile, whispers ripple through the classroom, as students speculate whether the culprit might be someone from their own school. During lunch break, a chilling conversation unfolds as one student reveals the horrifying details of Ayaha's murder, describing the brutal mutilation that goes beyond a simple prank. The classroom atmosphere grows tense, and a girl holding her food flinches nervously, clearly disturbed by the grim revelations. The gravity of the situation sinks in as the possibility that the killer might be among them sends a wave of fear through the group. Accused by her classmates, the girl desperately denies any involvement, trembling as she insists she could never harm Kanazawa-san. The tension escalates as others angrily point fingers, convinced she must be the culprit simply because she spent time with Ayaha the day before. The confrontation turns violent when someone grabs her hair, shouting, "You murderer!" as fear and chaos grip the room. Amid the chaos, two students rush to get the teacher's attention, pleading for help to stop the violent confrontation. The teacher arrives, demanding an explanation, while two others warn her to stay out of their fight, insisting this is their problem alone. Meanwhile, the accused girl remains distressed, desperately denying any guilt as tension thickens in the room. The teacher gently confronts the group, acknowledging their deep love for Kanazawa-san and the heartbreak they all feel. She explains that their pain and grief are causing them to unfairly blame Fuyukawa-san, reminding them that this won't bring Kanazawa-san back. The room falls into a heavy silence as the weight of her words sinks in. The tension between the students reaches a breaking point as one insists that Fuyukawa-san couldn't have done such a thing, while another struggles to accept the harsh truth of their friend's death. Tears flow freely as the group mourns, with one student imagining Kanazawa-san wanting them to keep smiling despite the pain. The teacher offers a gentle, reassuring smile, urging them to let the police handle the investigation and to support each other by finding strength in their shared grief. As the group begins to soften, one student apologizes and admits they were wrong about Fuyukawa-san, causing a ripple of uneasy realization. Meanwhile, Ryuto, overwhelmed and disgusted, abruptly decides to leave, prompting a concerned classmate to call after him. The protagonist's heart races with a painful awareness that someone is manipulating Ayaha's death as a weapon, deepening the tension. The girl confronts the protagonist with a calm yet unsettling smile, blaming Kanazawa-san and Takuto-kun for the tragic events. Her words cut deep, reminding him of their complicated past and the consequences of their actions. Sweating and shaken, he struggles to process her cold accusation and the painful memories it stirs. Tensions explode as a furious voice demands to know what Akazuki is doing, while others call out to him in alarm. Overwhelmed and sweating, he clenches his fist, struggling to keep control as the weight of their accusations and actions bear down on him. From afar, a chilling calmness radiates from the girl, her quiet demeanor contrasting sharply with the chaos, leaving him to wonder if they're all conspiring against him. Haunted by memories of his older brother's effortless talents and their close bond, the protagonist wrestles with the painful question of why those he cares about always seem to suffer. Flashbacks reveal a time when he admired his brother's skills and longed to be just like him, despite warnings to be patient and keep their play secret from their parents. The protagonist lies injured at the bottom of the stairs, struggling to accept the reality of how things have spiraled so far, clinging to a fading memory. He recalls a time when he eagerly talked about a girl from school, determined to make her smile despite her blank expression. The contrast between past hope and present despair weighs heavily on him, deepening his pain and confusion. The protagonist recalls a disturbing secret about the girl from school, something terrible that only he and his brother know. Reflecting on his brother's recent strange behavior, he realizes the girl frightened him despite her outward innocence. The unsettling truth weighs heavily on him as he struggles to understand what awful thing she might have done. The protagonist recalls the moment his brother fell down the stairs, a memory that haunts him deeply, desperate for answers. He searches through old albums, his heart pounding as he uncovers a photo from the field trip, the key to understanding what really happened to his brother. The weight of the mystery presses down on him, fueling his urgent need to piece together the truth. The protagonist's heart races as he recognizes the girl's face in the photo, a chilling reminder of the fear his brother once felt. Flipping through his brother's graduation album, he is struck by the terrifying memory tied to that very girl, an unsettling memento his mother kept. The weight of the truth presses down harder than ever. The protagonist's eyes widen in shock as he stares at the photo of Kokoro Kasai, the cute but scary girl whose name now echoes ominously in his mind. The chilling thought grips him. If she's connected to his brother's accident, the truth might be darker than he ever imagined.